No, keep it brewing.
Okay. George Washington.
So she says, that's the biggest penis I've ever seen.
But it wasn't directly to you.
No.
No. Okay.
That's why he's not invited to our house anymore.
Well, that's a wise move.
I apologized for that several times, Brandon.
Welcome back to Come and Brew It Radio, coming to you from Texas Brewing Inc. in Haltom City, Texas. You can find us on the web at txbrewing.com, and be sure to follow us on Facebook and share with your friends. In this episode, we're going to get back to our new series, Make Beer Beer Again, by tasting the results of our pale ale brews. We have several variations on the same idea and likely several levels of varying success. We'll talk about how they came out and what we will do differently in the future.
And in the second half, we're going to dive into stouts. Most of the examples you find today are big and boozy. Some are barrel-aged and many of them are stuffed with big, bold flavor additions like chocolate, coffee, and even sweeteners. We are going to get back to... I can't do this. We're going to get back to the roots of a style that used to be a staple for all craft breweries and see if we can remind everyone of the bold but drinkable versions we cut our teeth on. Before we get started, please be sure to check out our Patreon account to help support the show. Every little bit counts, and if you visit patreon.com/Come and Brew It Radio, we have a variety of options for you to help keep the show going, get involved, and improve it. Also, every live show, we will have a giveaway for all our patrons, and at the end of each month, we'll do a monthly product giveaway for all our $5, $10, and $20 patrons. I'm Nigel.
I'm Michael.
I'm Brandon.
I'm Tyler.
I'm Tyler.
All right, away we go. That was a weird accent you were doing, Nigel.
Was that an accent?
I don't know exactly what it was. It was
That-
kind of confusing.
This is my radio voice. That was my natural talking voice.
Oh, okay.
So-
Well,
So I guess I always hear you in radio voice.
That's right.
he shows up ready to go every time. All right, so we've got a little bit of a smaller crew tonight, but that's okay because we got a lot to talk about. So buckle up because we got a lot of recent happenings. We got the results of our pale ale brew that we did for the Make Beer Beer Again series, and then we're going to get into stouts in the second half. So away we go.
Ooh, yes, please, sir.
So I guess the first thing we want to talk about was Learn to Homebrew Day, which was just this past Saturday, November 2nd.
Yep.
Also
Yes,
known
it
as
was.
opening day of deer hunting season, so I never ever get to
Murderer.
go to it. I tried.
Did you
It
get
didn't
one?
Work out. No,
Damn.
I left them all alive.
Sorry. Conspiracy to murderer.
Oh, I still plan to do murdering. It just didn't happen that weekend.
Okay.
But y'all did an event out at Cowtown Brewing.
Right. Yep.
Yes,
With
we did.
and Cap and Hair was out there too. So
Yep.
just tell us how that went.
So it was a really fun event. We did it last year with Cowtown. Last year we didn't get, I don't think we had Cap and Hair involved, but we had Chris Crowley, who's normally on the show. He was out there. He did a extract beer, and then he also brewed on his Grainfather. He did an all grain batch on his Grainfather. And then we had Cedric out there, who also showed up a little bit late, but he did one of his seltzers.
The only thing he ever
Yeah.
makes anymore, right? He's
Yeah.
obsessed.
So for any of y'all that were out there, it was rather rough morning for us. We had Brock's Halloween party the night before.
Oh, that's
and-
right. Yeah.
And
And I saw photos. It was rough.
it was a rough morning. So
It was a rough evening. I mean, at least in the morning you woke up and you didn't have to see Austin in a dress. So
There is that. Yeah, so we
Although
had...
it might have been burned into your
I would
retinas.
say so that funny side note on that. We're all of us from the shop are standing there talking, and all of a sudden Austin walks up and he has the blonde wig on and you know the dress, and all of a sudden he's like, "Hey, what's up, guys?" And then turns around and like walks off, and I'm like, "Wait, I know that boy. Who the hell?" It took me a second.
Was he
to realize-
Alice in Wonderland or something like that? What?
No, he had.
He was a Dirndl. He was
Oh,
in,
was it a Dirndl?
Yeah.
Yeah. He said it was Amy's, but I don't know. He wore it really well. So
Well, I do know that from what I saw, he was extremely ugly. And,
yeah.
I would have had to have a lot of beers to hit on him. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Although
Eh,
it sounds like someone might have hit on him at that.
yeah.
From judging by the amount of beers that were had.
So for some of y'all that have noticed, I'm also clean shaved for the first time in like 7 years. That was to go full on
I
costume.
dug your costume, dude.
Yes. I like that. I went as Andy Dufresne, so it was a lot of fun. So I decided to shave for that.
So, yeah, there was a few hungover folks at Cowtown on Saturday, but it was a pretty good event. We had a bunch of people stop by and ask a few questions, take note of what was going on, leave their email address for further information, and I mean, any time that we can spread the word and get a few more people interested in the hobby, obsession, then
Ooh, that's really good.
Yeah. So
This is
we,
good.
I don't think I could love a human baby as much as I love this beer.
Yeah.
Did you get some of this, Tyler?
So for those of you listening, my daughter came over and visited me and left yesterday, but she did leave behind a couple of Bateman's Triple XB, which, if you've listened to the show before, you'll have heard how great it is and how much we love it on this show, and
it reinforces how far off I am from getting mine just right, because this is kind of what I shoot for when I make my bitters a little bit darker like this. This one's so perfect.
This beer is why I brew, and what it's the dragon I'm chasing, So so thanks, Jem. Love you, miss you, and next time you come over, bring half a dozen.
Yeah.
Hey, she told the story of what she had to go through to find this beer.
Yeah, it's apparently it's not widely available in the supermarkets anymore. It's available, but not widely available. My dad was on standby to do a 100-mile round trip to the brewery to get some for her to bring over, because there was she got the last two off the shelf in the last supermarket she went to.
Wow.
So otherwise,
thank you for bringing those.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So otherwise, my dad would have had a 100-mile round trip to get him. So.
That's shorter.
Yeah,
that's shorter than my commute to work.
That's just sacrifice that dad makes, right?
But it was good. It was great meeting your daughter and having her hang out, because Nigel and his daughter. Nigel initially said, "Oh, I'm going to show up to learn to home brew day for about an hour."
Yep.
What were you there, 4.5, 5 hours?
I wasn't there that long. Yeah,
3.
Yeah,
3
hours. She was having fun, so.
Yeah, so
It's a good spot to hang out.
it was cool to have her, over from across the pond and hang out with us and drink some beer, and that was a lot of fun.
You know how I know everybody was really hungover that day? Because Stubby was the only one who was on time.
There you go.
We get a message in the group chat. Where the hell is everybody? And I'm like, damn, Stubby's the one that's there on time, wondering where everybody else is.
Oh well, if you noticed in the group chat, Austin was up and moving at 8. But we later agreed. So was I. But oh no, we were still drunk. Like we really think we were still drunk when we woke up at 8. We needed a second nap, or that first nap to kind of wake up and feel like death.
Yeah.
So I blame Cedric and his seltzer, and then.
Oh, did he bring some of the panty dropper?
Well, no,
it's been renamed.
Just the normal 5%er, but.
Oh, really?
We were 6%. Also 6%.
Things got unruly, though.
Well, Brock also had a keg of Horse with No Name from Cowtown.
Yeah.
Which is
their IPL.
IPL. Yeah, and that's like 7.5 or
7.2
or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and it drinks like water.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Well, cool. Okay, so let's see here. What's the next thing we want to do here? Do we want to get into this next one right away,
or do we want to wait to get in? I think we just address it head on.
Yeah. So this one really bums me out because it's one of my favorite breweries, and I've always said, even though they were partially bought out by was it a Mexican beer company?
So.
Yes.
I've always said it's going to take a lot to make me stop drinking Founders, but Founders recently really stepped in it, and then the old saying, the cover up is worse than the crime. So they had a worker in their. Is it their Grand Rapids tap room?
Grand Rapids, yes.
Yeah. So which I've been to, which is a great place, huge place, great food, lots of great beer there, and apparently this guy had just been harassing the shit out of this guy, black guy that worked there, named Tracy Evans or something like that, right?
That sounds
I think
right.
It's Tracy something. To the point where they had said one copier was for the white people and one copier was for the black people because it was the shitty copier or something like that. I mean, a lot of just open use of the N-word and crazy stuff like that. And you never know if that's institutional or anything because it's a big company. They have a lot of employees or whatever. But when it came time for depositions and to handle it and everything, Founders could not have possibly handled it any worse, I don't think.
No.
They had this crazy deposition where I can't remember who the guy was in the company.
Taproom manager?
Was it the taproom? Okay, I think you're right. Yeah, I think it was his direct supervisor, if I remember correctly.
I
acted as though he didn't know that the guy was black. It was like really, really evasive
Oh,
when they
he-
were asking him, "Are you aware that he's African American or whatever?" And I don't know.
But the guy went beyond that, and he was like, "Well, who did he use it?" He was like,
Obama, President Obama.
He said
Michael
Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan, President Obama, and some other Kobe or something. He's like, I don't know that they're black either.
Yeah, I've
because
never met 'em.
I've never met them,
Yeah.
so I've never seen it. It was just, it was the most ridiculous.
And then as part of a
excuse,
response
like-
to the thing, they had hired a diversity and inclusion manager who was supposed to kind of look over all their policies and make sure that they were doing everything they could. And this lady just up and quit and wrote an open letter saying, you haven't listened to anything I've said, and everything you do is all about just winning this lawsuit. You're not trying to make anything better or addressing the
I've
problem. or
warned
anything."
you.
And the whole timeline of that was messed up too, because I mean, like you say, it was all about hiring her to help them win that lawsuit.
Yeah, see, which I was unaware of. Somebody, I think it was
At least that's how it appeared.
You posted a link to an article that had it as a timeline.
Yes,
of
yes,
what all happened, and
yes.
that's when I realized, oh man, this is pretty bad. Because I wasn't sure. You never know if you're not there.
And so much stuff you had seen was just a little here and a little there,
And it sounded so crazy. It's like, is this really true that this is all happening?
And then, I wish I could remember the site that I got that off of, but they did a real time, event by event, and they were
Yeah.
even keeping it updated. So long story short, though, it was settled out of court, and the Grand Rapids location has closed. Correct?
The brew pub, right?
The tap room,
Tap
or brew
room.
pub.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, tap room. Yeah.
No, I think what they did was they closed a special events portion of it where they held charity. Is that someone?
That was
Is that someone else?
that was a West Coast brewery that also sold out.
Oh, that was Golden Road, wasn't it?
No.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Golden Road.
Shit.
At any rate.
Yeah,
Okay, at any
that
rate.
was another one. That was an article I shared that had both of them that talked about both. But
So, in the settlement for the whole thing, they basically, there's a non-disclosure agreement, and everybody just, the statement that they go with is no one is admitting to doing anything wrong. And I just thought, man, could this possibly have gone any worse?
yeah,
Sometimes you just want to see somebody say, look, this is screwed up, and
we screwed up.
yeah, and we're making it right,
Yeah.
Yeah, Founders
Okay,
closed the Charlotte Street tap room.
Okay. Yeah.
which I think that might be the one that I went to, which is a big place. It's crazy to me that they
But-
had to close it.
So just as an update, 1 day ago in the Detroit Free Press, Founders to reopen the Detroit tap room in early 2020 and plans to donate profits to charities. So some positivity coming out of it. if
Yeah.
nothing
Positivity or a part of the plea.
else. Yeah, maybe.
It's a foundation that donates copiers to inner city children.
It says here to slightly
Too soon?
contradict that statement.
Just a little.
They will donate 100% of the profits from the reopened tap room to Detroit charities and community organizations through at least 2022.
Wow.
So 2 years of
Wow. Yeah.
2 years of donations.
Okay. So the
I was
next
trying to
interesting-
find the article you posted, and I can't find it.
I can't remember.
They
how
closed the
that-
tap room on October the 25th, citing the safety of its dozens of Detroit employees.
So they were worried about the safety of their employees.
I think the local blowback was massive.
Yeah, I think
Was
Yeah.
really
Yeah,
big.
yeah.
And it wasn't just one or two people in this place doing it, according to what he said. It
No,
was
it
just
was-
like, that's just how it,
it was a
around
culture.
the
It
place.
Yeah.
was pretty. Yeah.
That's amazing to me that kind of thing could even happen in this day and age and go on for more than a day or two.
Right.
They were going to have a bottle release and party for its Canadian breakfast.
Okay, so
stout.
that's the Detroit.
CBS.
That's the Detroit tap room
Yeah.
that they closed.
Yeah.
Okay, so not the Grand Rapids. So I wonder if that's where he worked.
The Grand
was in
Rapids tap
Detroit
room
one.
remained open during the Detroit tap room closure and held its own CBS release party, and party is scheduled.
Okay. Well, I think what they should do is release a bunch of CBS and KBS for $10 a 4-pack to make it up to everybody.
Lagunitas.
Oh, that's right. It was Lagunitas, wasn't it? Yeah.
So Lagunitas had a special event room that they used just for. There was a charity
charity
thing.
events and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
all kinds of different charities could sign up to use it and book events there.
Yeah, and they would have to pay for the licensing and all that, but it was a good charity event that they got it for free, and so they just out of nowhere stopped it. from, if I remember right, the article's a couple weeks old now.
They just shut it down.
They just shut it down. Like,
didn't give anybody any notice.
yeah.
A bunch of charities had events scheduled all there,
and
they
had
just
already paid, to have their beer, and
well,
the
they have to pay for all the staff and
the licensing. And there were lots of different things.
Lots of different things tied to it that they just lost out on their deposits and stuff. So.
Yeah. It was one of those. So in the same day, both things came out about the founders and about that, and it was kind of one of those. Hey, these companies have sold off to big beer, and now look at what the ripple effects are. So that is what it is.
Yeah. Okay, so on to Utah. This is let's go to a more positive note. The Budweiser Clydesdale horses are scheduled to appear on Main Street on Saturday as part of an event marking the loosening of beer regulations in Utah. Return of the famous horses to the shopping and dining district and entertainment strip for the first time since 2002, as Utah celebrates the ability of grocery stores and bars to serve beer that's more than 3.2% ABV.
Woohoo!
Up to a whopping 5%.
Now, I will tell you this. The difference between 3.2 and 5 is huge.
It's huge.
And because, I've traveled to Oklahoma for work for years, and in Oklahoma for a long time, if you bought cold beer at the store,
it was 3.2.
It was 3.2.
Yep.
And I bought some 3.2 beer a couple of times, just like, I'm going to watch a movie in my hotel room. I just want a beer to drink kind of thing. And the gas station right there by my hotel had cold beer. It's awful. It's awful.
It's water.
Yeah, it's water.
It's water.
You get so full.
You can't get a
and
buzz.
You don't feel like you drank a beer. Yeah, it's.
You get full before you get hell, even not even drunk, just a buzz.
So while 5% does not seem like a lot, it's a whole hell of a lot better than 3.2%.
People get drunk off Bud Light all the time, and it's under 5.
It always makes me think of the movie SLC Punk, where they have to drive into Wyoming or something like that to go get real beer. If you haven't seen that movie, go out and see it immediately. It's fantastic.
So, just remind me, because there is alcohol by volume, but there's also another way of measuring
Alcohol by weight.
Right. By weight, that's
and that
right.
was how I originally had read it, that the 5% was by weight,
Right.
which is actually only like 4.2 by volume or something
Right.
like that. But this said by 5% ABV.
by volume.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that.
Yeah, I read the same thing you did to start with.
And I was like, hang on, what are we talking here?
Which
Yeah.
one is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So this next article, this next thing, I just love.
Me too.
It's one of those, and we aren't from the area, so we don't know. There has to be a backstory behind all of this.
Well, the story is, I guess, based on some billboards and concert sponsorships that the advertising campaign was aimed specifically at Shiner Bock in Shiner, Texas, where they brew it.
So to cut the head off the snake, right?
My guess is
say,
most
do we
people
just want to
listening
just read
this-
it that
yeah,
way?
Yeah, go ahead and just read it because it's cool. My guess is most people listening to this are familiar with Shiner Bock because I find it everywhere
Nationally
in the country.
now,
Yeah.
But it's really like a Texans kind of take pride in Shiner Bock. It's our homegrown beer. And
Oh, definitely. I mean, when I was 16, 17 years old, and I wanted to drink something besides the Bud Miller Coors. Even back 20 plus years ago, I was wanting to drink something different. But I was a Texas country guy, and the Texas country singers sang about drinking Shiner Bock beer, and Shiner's the first different beer I drank. So just a couple days ago, actually on Thursday, November 7th, in the Shiner Gazette, which is the local paper down there, Shiner posted an open letter, and it basically states 3 billboards outside Shiner, Texas. To our friends in Shiner, we have heard some chatter about uncommon sights around town last month. 3 billboards and a concert sponsorship touting there's a new Bock in Shiner. That's not Shiner Bock, my friends. They're talking about Karbach Brewing Company, which is owned and operated by Anheuser-Busch SANV, the largest brewer in the United States and in the world. So basically, Shiner just calls them out and says, hey, we've been in our community since 1909. That's 110 years. That's not the 110% independent and family-owned Shiner Bock. So they basically call Karbach out, trying to almost take on their name.
Cutting on their turf.
Yeah.
And hey, I think Shiner are perfectly accepting of any competition.
Yeah.
But don't stand on their doorstep trying to put over that the Bock that they're going to be drinking in Shiner It's Shiner Bock.
asshole move.
It is. I mean, but it's
I love the last couple lines in here. You know, it says, but they can try again. It won't be the first time some local Texans faced unbelievable odds. We've got pride on our side. We are proud of our beer, proud of our independence, proud of our heritage, proud of our authenticity, and proud to be in Shiner, Texas. To the drinkers who love Shiner, we say cheers. And to the giant breweries, as our friends down the road once said, come and take it.
Yeah.
So that's kind
a
of
Texan statement
that's
right
such
there.
a you know if any of you guys are from Texas and know the history, that's such a Texas thing. Like it's kind of almost like a screw you, like
It
you
is,
know,
absolutely.
and I love the way that the Shiner just kind of put it out there. It was like, hey,
you know,
listen.
but to some extent, and I might get shot down for this. Fair play to Anheuser-Busch. You know, they went in, yeah, but they went into the home turf of one of their competitors, and they threw up some competition and some notoriety and said, hey, you know, we're here too. Don't forget about us.
Well,
And of course they got shot down, but.
yeah, but they did it in an asshole
Yeah,
way.
but
I mean, that's the thing. So
that's how they do stuff, right?
yeah,
They don't have values. They don't have morals.
they ain't got no heart.
Right, we've already determined that. And hey, it may have cost them, I don't know, $100,000 or whatever. I don't know, but it got us talking about it, and I'm sure it's got other people talking about it.
Yeah, but I think it's a pretty negative way we're talking about it. So
But again, there's some organizations out there that believe no news is bad news.
yeah. How's that working out for him?
Yeah.
See, I think if anything, we're talking about Shiner Bock.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's one of those we can say what we want about it, but it cut a lot of our teeth on craft beer, and you know, even beyond just Shiner Bock, you know, their holiday cheer is really good.
I like Shiner beers.
You know,
Shiner
they
beers
do
are
a
good.
lot of really good stuff. You know, that you can debate whether they're still craft and all that, but Shiner does some great stuff
They're craft by the
by the definition. Yep.
of craft, but they are on the large side. They're in a large organization.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
You know.
But so's Yingling. I mean,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get on to this AHA survey. We did this last year too, and I thought it was really interesting, some of the data that came out from it. So once a year, the American Homebrewers Association sends out a survey to its members, and then you know, based on the responses, we get this kind of summary of it, and that just came out. And so there's just a couple of things that stood out that I thought were interesting. There's some things that are not surprising at all. 98% of the homebrewers that responded are male. That doesn't surprise me at all.
See, and to me, that kind it was that male dominant. I mean, I know this is a male dominant world, and Sandra's like the exception, but I feel that it's more than 2%. But I know it's people that just I would have been okay with 5%. You know, I would have been like, okay, that's about right. There's, you know, there's not a lot.
Gosh, you're gonna have to give me a minute.
So let me find the survey. I found there were several interesting things about it. Let's see. Here, I'm pulling it up.
So, I mean, yeah, we could talk about some of the basics in the meantime. So, I mean, the age demographic, nearly half of the homebrewers, 44% are 30 to 39 years old. So that's
Woo-hoo, I'm right in that average.
yeah, I'm on the top end of the next one, but
I was saying,
yeah, I'm nearly in the 13%. But hey, you know, there's a you know, profession and stuff could be
well, to me, it was
wide
one of those-
range as anything. The profession is very diluted.
But see, and I saw that. So profession, it has 19% being engineering, and 16% being comp science, computer science.
Yeah.
So that's basically 35% are either engineers or computer science. Working in the shop, I believe it. I think engineers are even more prominent.
Yeah. But 34% is other, and that's a huge.
Well, yeah, others.
You know.
I mean,
But 34% of them, it's a third of them, don't fall into any category that they put out there for answering. So
yeah, true enough.
the ethnicity category actually kind of disturbs me. You know,
we are very much in a white male.
we
industry.
are, and I should say that the gender categories concerns me too. I mean,
Yes. Oh, definitely.
98% male brewing is
Yeah,
I mean, it's the 2% are there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not wiping out the 2%, but essentially it's an all male.
Oh
hobby,
yeah,
you know,
well, and as you dig further into some of the other stats, yeah, definitely.
94% are white or Caucasian.
I found kind of
So we are absolutely not a diverse
not at all.
hobby.
No,
We are set, you know.
we're white males between the ages of 30 and 50.
Yeah.
Is what the homebrew community is.
Yeah.
I kind of found it surprising that the second group on the ethnicity was actually Hispanic or Latino.
Yeah, I don't know kind of what to make of that, other than some of the more local brews and stuff. You know, but like you say, it's essentially a white male 30 to 50 hobby.
Well, and then you even dig a little further, and we started to talk about it. And I can't find the stat now. That Brandon was talking about income.
Yeah,
and like 30-something% of homebrewers make $100,000 plus a year. Well, that doesn't surprise me. They're engineers. That 72% of homebrewers own their own house. Yeah. I mean, that responded to this survey is what our numbers are.
Yeah, that's right.
Kind of what surprised me a little bit was just a totally random that 56% had no religious or were atheists or an agnostic.
That surprised me a lot too.
That it was that high at 56%. I mean,
yeah, that's a really big percentage.
I know being a Christian and being a home brewer, being more, I guess I would be a Protestant, but that I'm the exception. But it surprised me that so many people were so anti-religion almost.
I'm not surprised that Mormon didn't show up on there.
I don't know. I don't know if we can put that as an anti.
Well, okay. Well, no, but they just
maybe a. I don't see.
I think
this plays
it's
a part
probably
in
more like non-participants.
Yeah.
And that's probably. Yeah. So,
but I guess maybe it's just down here in the Bible Belt. Most of the people I know are Christians that are homebrewers, and a lot of people brew for and with their church and that kind of thing. You know, James Lalonde.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think half the beer he brews he uses for church events.
Church events.
Yeah.
So
I'm a Satanist, and that wasn't in here as an option. So, you know.
So, and another interesting,
you make it really tough to pass on some of these.
the number of years of brewing, a third of them have been brewing 4 to 6 years. So, I mean, these aren't new home brewers either. These are guys.
Yeah, that's interesting too. That and I think that really says something, that there's a lot less people getting in to the hobby these days. You know? 5% were less than a year. That's not very many at all. Now, remember, this is people that are members of the AHA. So
and that took the survey. So.
Yeah, and I wasn't a member of the AHA the first year I brewed.
Yeah, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Actually, when you talk about it like that, main brewing education, the way people get educated, surprisingly, 56% of them are this show.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It actually says on here, Come and Brew
it Radio.
Yeah.
So, interesting. What's more disturbing, though, is that 37% of them get their main online community is Facebook. And what bothers me is there's some freaking idiots, and we're going to get to it when we talk about stouts. But there's just some stupid people out there on Facebook.
Well, there's a lot of them too. Homebrew Talk that's on here. Homebrew Talk is one that, man, you got to be careful what you read on there.
So really, all these main online communities outside of Come and Brew It Radio are kind of sketchy.
Yeah, probably we're the only place that you want to listen to.
That you get.
I think the AHA forum you could probably be fairly safe on.
Okay, Reddit's not bad either. I watch the Reddit one a lot, and while you will see some misinformation on there, you'll also see a lot of people correct it.
Correct.
Yeah. And if you know how to read it, if you know how to sort through and ignore the comments from people who are just guessing.
So just me.
So just listen to Nigel pretty much.
Well, no, ignore me. That's what I'm saying. Ignore me.
So I guess maybe what's a good thing is the main brewing education. Only 5%, it looks like, get their main brewing education from podcast. So I think that's possible.
That doesn't surprise me. Yeah,
because there's some awful. I mean, we give some awful information. No.
I don't think a lot of people have a lot of time to listen to podcasts. You have to have a part of your life. I sit in the car a lot, so I listen to podcasts a lot because I sit in the car.
Yep.
Some people have jobs where they can listen to it, but other than that,
but reading, I find reading takes in more information than listening anyway.
Well, see, that's kind of, only 26% of people said books. Man, my main brewing education was a book. It was How to Brew by John Palmer.
And that's how it used to be.
You know, and that book, I tell customers all the time, I still pull that book out occasionally because there's just, especially the newest version, there's just such
but I mean,
great
that's the
information.
reality that we're living in today is you got to realize how much the internet has taken over everything.
Oh,
It's replacing book. I was in Specs the other day, and the Dallas Morning News had set up a little thing up. They're trying to get people to sign up for their newspaper, and I was like, man.
Really?
I hope you've got another lead on another job because you're selling paper against the internet. It's just
instant news. Yeah, exactly. That's
so.
Anything else interesting that we saw?
Yeah. There were several things that. So styles brewed most frequently. Obviously, it's going to be pale ale, IPA, double IPA, but it's actually down. In 2018, it was 56%, and it's down to 54%. That's not a lot.
Astronomical.
It's an astronomical amount, yeah.
Well,
but
that's also.
I'm not surprised at all.
That's a wide range of beer right there too.
I hate that I've just brewed to the masses.
We all know it's not American pale ales in there. It's IPAs.
It's IPAs and doubles. Yeah.
And then
hazy
Belgian
IPAs probably are also in there.
Belgian styles and porters and stouts were number 2 in there with 8% apiece. That's the drop off from 54% to 8% for second and third place.
Yeah.
So that's pretty crazy. What was 7%?
Pale lagers.
Pale lagers.
Yeah. Hybrid styles. At 5.
Amber and brown. Milds or bitters were 4%.
2. No, you're right, 4%.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
If you put the cursor over it, it makes it easier to read because it gets into such tiny little pie slices there. And for those of you that haven't looked at this, there's some really cool parts of it where you can click back and forth from 2018 to 2019 and see what the trend is, what the changes have been. So look it up, and there's some fun stuff to look on here. What's the initial approach to brewing compared to current was one that really blew our minds when we were talking before the show.
Yeah.
So the way we're reading this is, how did you brew when you first got into home brewing, and how do you brew now? So 74% of people did some form of extract, whether it was extract and steeping grains with a partial boil or extract and steeping grains with a full boil or whatever. And then 26% of people did all grain, which that to me is a huge number. That's how you initially started to brew. 26%. That's
1 in 4.
But we're seeing that nowadays. I mean, like Chris Crowley, he's never brewed an extract batch before.
Yes, he now has.
Yeah, did he do it at Learn to Homebrew Day? Okay, because he was talking about, I don't even know how to do it.
With my supervision, I helped him on some things that he just had never done as a non-extract brewer. So.
And I'll tell you, Chris is becoming a pretty damn good brewer. I'm telling you, I've had a couple of really nice beers at his house recently. He and I split London Brown, and his came out better than mine by a large margin.
Nice.
Yeah, he's got a good recipe for that.
Well, that's Zach's recipe.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
His fermentation was better than mine. But current, 95% of people that responded to the survey are all grain brewers. So,
which initially I was like, man, that's incredibly high. And then kind of Tyler and I before the show, we kind of talked, and the orders that we get into the shop, 95 is a little high, but I would have said easily 85.
Yeah, see, that's a lot. I think it's a lot easier to brew all grain these days than it used to because there's so many different ways to do it. Brew in a bag has really been refined where people make great beer doing that, where years ago that was kind of frowned upon and there were some issues with it. There's more purpose-built equipment for that now.
Yep.
These all-in-one electric brewing systems like the Grainfather have really, really made it more accessible.
Revolutionized the process.
I'd be curious to see a statistic on what that has done. I don't know how you would measure it, but I think that particular type of brewing has really changed the whole face of home brewing.
Well, you were just talking about the brew in a bag. Well, it says right here, all grain method. 30% of people that brew all grain brew in a bag. It's and then 28% batch sparge, which is what I do. So it says there, though, 19% now use an all-in-one electric system as opposed to 13% last year. So it's gone up 6% in just in a year.
Just in a year, and the grandfather and that stuff was around last year too.
Yeah.
So I'd be curious to see the year before that too, because I bet that's
2016,
up from like
2017,
3 or 4% before that. You know,
Yeah,
before
definitely.
before these off the shelf ones came into be. I mean, before people
Yeah.
were building these incredibly intricate all electric 3-vessel systems
Yeah,
and all that.
yeah.
And that was electric brewing. Now it's a different thing.
I think we are missing the biggest issue here, though.
What's that?
What's that?
61% of all brewers have facial hair.
Oh, you're skipping way ahead.
Yeah.
Well, I thought that was an item that needed discussing.
And it's
I would have thought it was higher than that.
so we're bearded white men,
Right.
Right.
straight white
I
men.
mean-
Because I think that was another.
But if I brewed this weekend, I would be. But if I'd have brewed last weekend, which I did, I wasn't. So I'm kind of undecided where I fall.
see, and I've yet to brew as a
clean shaven.
as a clean shaved
Right.
brewer. So
Y'all are confused.
I know I don't feel like a brewer anymore since I'm clean shaved.
See, I just might go between what I would consider a short beard and a long beard periodically, and that has a lot more to do with how pissed off I am at the world and whether I want to grow a protest beard
Right.
as a result.
Mine is my level of give up.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Like usually at the end of the year when I'm just tired, I've had it with this year.
That's it.
Holidays are coming. I just don't trim it for like a month and I get all crazy bushy. But the annual income one really, really surprised me.
Yeah, wait, I kind of touched on that when you. Had
Oh,
to step
did
out a
you? You
second
jumped
ago,
all
yeah.
the way to the end?
I
when-
didn't realize it was jumping because I was talking about professions.
Foreplay is overrated. Okay.
Yeah, but yes. So my take on that is okay. So yes, 40% of people that responded make $50,000 to $100,000. Well, most of them also are engineers. Engineers make better money. 72% of homebrewers that responded
More than
own-
40. If you're going 50 to 100,000, you've got what 32. You got 64% of the people that make from $60,000 to $100,000 a year.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's a huge number, 64. But
Yeah.
32% that make over 100,000. That's really amazing
Yeah.
to me.
But the number of kids at 40% or 39% with no kids, I mean,
That's
that's
amazing
interesting
to me.
too.
so
yeah.
so they've got like you say,
Time to brew.
if you piece this together, right, we are bearded male white
White,
people straight between 30 and 50 years old.
We're
with-
married
with-
and have a lot of money,
with no kids,
or not a lot of, but they're
Yeah.
comfortable amount of
married, no kids, a lot of and comfortable with money. Yeah.
money. Yep.
Yep.
And then there was one other one here that I wanted to look at. What was it? See, you got me jumping all around. I lost.
Yeah,
it.
well,
Oh, the consumption. Did you guys talk about consumption?
No,
did
no,
not.
we didn't.
Otherwise known as the liar section.
Yeah.
So, according to this, drinking homebrew, 61% of people say sometimes they drink none. 10% say they take daily samples. 20% is 1 to
Bullshit.
2.
Daily samples is a beer or two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And then commercial beer, 81% sometimes none, and 16% 1 to 2 beers.
But what does
I
that
call
mean?
bullshit.
What does that mean? Sometimes none.
See, I think they're fudging on this because they're like, sometimes I don't have any commercial beer. I drink homebrew every day. And then they're like, well, sometimes I don't have any homebrew, but I drink commercial beer every day.
Well,
They're-
it's asking, do you daily drink a homebrew? Well, no. Sometimes I have no homebrew,
right, but in
but
that
then
other
I-
category,
but then sometimes I just drink commercial beers
Right.
at night. Yeah, exactly. This is bullshit. If you're at the level that you're homebrewing, I mean, not to call us alcoholics or anything, but you're probably drinking a beer 5 or 6 nights a week.
I have
You
at
know?
least 2 beers every single night.
I mean, I
Yeah.
usually one commercial and one homebrew for me. Like, so that's what I did find interesting is the well, here this is the one that popped up. 72% of people keg. Did you see that?
Yes, and that was up.
That was
from last
shocking.
year,
That was
too.
shocking for me. I mean, I
the-
know people hate bottling because I certainly do, but I didn't realize it was 3
Well,
to 1.
that much.
Well, remember,
Yeah.
this survey is composed of people that are 95% more than 2 years they've been
Yeah,
brewing.
that's fair.
So,
Yeah.
Well, true.
like
yeah.
Stubby always says, like I always say, and I agree with them, if you brew long enough, you're going to
To-
keg,
yeah.
or
Keg.
else you're going to stop brewing.
Yep.
So that doesn't surprise me at all. In fact, I'm surprised at 26% that are bottle conditioning. I mean, I would figure that'd be closer to 80 or 90% of people that were kegging, because almost, I think every home brewer I know that's been brewing for any length of time has at least one tap in their house.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. So another and then we'll get off of this. But 41% of brewers are using unfiltered tap water.
Yeah, I saw that, and I was like,
Wow,
I hope their water is much better than ours. But having said that, they've virtually all got chlorine in. No matter where you are in the world, I mean...
Yeah.
Chlorine's not a problem. Chloramine.
Yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, that is a little bit surprising.
Yeah. So there's 41% of people...
What I would like to have seen on here is a statistic of how many refrigerators they own. Outside of their regular refrigerator that they keep all their food in.
Are we including chest freezers?
Yes, chest freezers and refrigerators that are used for fermentation, storage, or serving.
6.
Right.
I would say I would say the over under is probably 3, and I would probably go.
Yeah, I'd say yeah.
Yeah,
I guess 3 would be the average. Yeah,
you know,
I got 6.
I've got
fermentation.
I've got 3.
Kegerator, and then just regular beer. Fridge.
Yeah,
I mean, that's 3.
I've got 3, and I could go for a regular fridge just to put beer in.
I have a mini one for that. I need a lagering fridge now. I'm doing a lot of lagers, so I need a lagering fridge.
Yeah. Okay, well, so look that up if you want. It's really fun to see it visually and to be able to click back and forth between the 2 years. It's a cool thing. I don't think I would draw too many hard conclusions from it, but it's fun.
Yeah,
it's
like you said. I wish they had multiple years.
Where's that other New Braunfels beer?
Here's this. Yeah, so
well, are we going to go to American Pales?
Yeah,
well, did we want to talk about that Kvike article?
Well, we can do. Yes, that's true. Yeah,
come back and do our beer.
Yeah.
And then
So also want to talk about the press release that Pro Brew Supply released today as well. Okay. So as you know, Texas Brewing Inc. now has a Pro Brew Supply arm, and it is in fact called Pro Brew Supply. So we supply a lot of the breweries with grain and hops, chemicals, and indeed yeast, I believe, around the DFW area.
Yes.
We have a press release today. Let me dig this up here. We have partnered with Yakima Quality Hops.
YQH.
YQH, yeah. Let's find it. I can't find it. Have you pulled it up, Michael?
No, I haven't. But basically, we're going to be there southwest. Tyler, do you exactly remember?
I don't remember exactly.
But we're going to be one of their major distributors throughout the country. We have 140 boxes of hops coming next week. 145 boxes. And these are 44-pound boxes of hops. So,
wow.
Well, we got a little bit of hops coming in, and that's due to our partnership. We sell a shitload of hops.
I've got it here. So to read verbatim, it says, Pro Brew Supply now distribution partner with Yakima Quality Hops. YQH of Yakima, Washington has formed a distribution partnership with Pro Brew Supply of Holton City, Texas to provide the best of the Yakima Valley hop harvest to both local and national breweries. And as home brewers, you'll get some of the benefit of that, I'm sure. I'm sure it will show up in the store as well.
One of the things about that is Stubby, got to do what a lot of large breweries do, which is go up there and sample the different lots and the different varieties and that kind of thing, and pick which ones he thought were the best. And I can guarantee you those are going to show up in our kits and in the store and all that. So it's just another thing, just like our yeast, we get all our yeast direct from the supplier and not through a wholesaler. This is another thing where
quality product.
Yeah, we're getting the highest quality that you can get. So,
and it says here, to build their new distribution partnership, Pro Brew Supply staff selected a broad set of hop lots for 2020 that can easily fulfill your brewing needs.
Staff being Stubby.
Yeah,
I didn't pick lots. Did you, Tyler?
Not so much.
No, but as you may remember, Stubby went up to Yakima a few weeks ago to the hop harvest, and this is where he set this up with Yakima Quality. I think it's exciting. I think it's going to be great for our local breweries. I think it's going to be great for our regional breweries, and I think it's going to be great for the home brewer too. So I think we're going to get some great quality products and make even better beer with them.
Yeah, see, and I think that's something that the home brewers don't realize as much, is because as our pro business grows and we're making some of these deals and we're getting these hops in and we're getting these malts in, that it's saving them money. That we're getting ultra fresh stuff. We're getting stuff that other people aren't able to get, and we're getting it at a better price. So it's ultimately, it benefits the home brewer for our pro business to be better.
Hang on, sorry, that's me.
Come on, Nigel.
I was trying. I was trying
Mike,
to
pull out a pubic hair.
I was trying to read the comments that said there was an audio issue.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers was saying, if you're using headphones, the sound only comes through on the left one.
I've heard that for a long time now, actually.
He said
I'm going to start speaking out of both sides of my mouth.
Yeah,
I wish you would.
So, but also him and Casey Kirkpatrick, two of our great Patreons, credited this show as what got them from extract to all grain.
All right, I told you.
Of course, yeah. I mean, that survey was accurate then.
Yeah, and
we are the only.
They're probably an accurate representation of just about every home.
I think they were the only two people that actually filled in that survey.
Yep. Yeah.
All right, so let's touch real quick on this Kvike article. We were going to get into our pale ales before the break. I think we'll take a break and we'll do pale ales and stouts in the second half. But I want to talk about this Kvike article real quick that Nigel sent to us all the other day. So much of what you hear about Kvike out there is going to be anecdotal in terms of people using it and talking about their results and that kind of thing. I'm a member of a group on Facebook called the Kvike Registry, where they've gotten a bunch of different strains that aren't commercially available, and they are more of like heritage strains, which are the actual Kvike. They're basically blends, because a lot of Kvike actually has some bacteria and that kind of thing in it too, because it's really the origination of it is it's a wild yeast.
And just to clarify, because I have customers come in all the time that are looking for Kvike yeast. Kvike's just a generic name for. There's a ton of different
group of yeasts.
Yeah. There's a bunch of different strains in the Kvike family.
Right, and they're basically of like Norwegian origin. I think there's 12 or 14 different strains that.
There's quite a few of them.
Jaime Estrada, who's one of our listeners, who sent us in some beer for Final Gravity, and we still have a couple of his beers that we need to crack open and taste them now that they've aged a little bit. He had sent me a list. There is a chart out there of all of them that gives some information on them, and we'll talk about that more. I am going to get him on the phone sometime now that we've got our technical issues running smoothly, other than the one headphone thing. But at any rate, this is from Escarpment Labs, escarpmentlabs.com. It's some sort of a Canadian yeast lab, and they did actual laboratory experiments on Kvike fermentations with several different strains. And one of the things that you'll read out there is that these yeasts actually perform better being severely underpitched. In that, that's kind of how they were used traditionally. Was there was a spoon that they dipped in, and they take it out and they dry it, and when they do the new batch, that's how they would inoculate it with yeast, was put the spoon back in, and so it's a really, really small amount of yeast. And you'll hear things a lot out there on the internet about how not only does it ferment better, but it also ferments faster. And so they did a study on the speed of fermentation, and boy, they went into some really technical detail on this. But one of the things they talked about in the article, which I thought was important, was that there's a little bit of a disillusionment with Kvike yeast, because I think, and I don't know if we're guilty of this or not, I think we've tried to approach it as academically as we can, but I think just in our amazement at what these yeasts do, we may have, there's kind of a belief out there that they're the be all end all. They're the answer to everything. You can do anything
especially
you
for
want
beginner
with them.
homebrewers or people that don't have the ability to make yeast starters and stuff like that.
Right, which they do have their own set of circumstances to deal with. They're just a lot more forgiving in things that we traditionally feel like we have to pay a lot of attention to. So one of them is that they ferment a lot faster when they're under pitched. So this company did an actual laboratory analysis of several different strains where they pitched them at a rate of 1 million cells per milliliter, 7 million cells per milliliter, and 10 million cells per milliliter, and measured the rate of fermentation. And basically what they came up with was that the rate of fermentation was a little bit slower with the severely underpitched, but generally when you look at the graphs that are on here, they're all pretty similar.
Yeah. If you pitch a healthy pitch of Kvike, you're going to get a fermentation that may start a bit quicker. I need to say Kvike. You might start a bit quicker, but essentially it's going to take about the same amount of time.
Right. Now, I would argue that means that it does ferment faster as an underpitch, because if a smaller amount of yeast, if a tenth of the yeast is completing that fermentation in the same time, that means it fermented faster because it did 10 times the work. But it's not going to speed up your overall fermentation. It still kind of took the same amount of time to do what it was going to do.
Let's just throw out there that the temperature on this was 68 degrees, 20 Celsius, 68 Fahrenheit.
Yeah,
so
they did not do it at a real hot temperature.
Yeah.
That's even almost on the low end for those.
Yeah,
for at least the Omega yeast that we get.
Yeah, the Omega pack says 72 degrees as the low end.
Now they also measured nutrient consumption. They measured terminal pH. They measured production of all kinds of different compounds that contribute to flavor: ethyl acetate, isoamyl acetate, phenyl acetate, ethyl hexanoate. I mean, there's like 12 different things.
She was my neighbor a few years ago.
Right. All kinds of stuff. It's very, very technical. If you are into the Kvike stuff and you're playing around with pitch rates and that kind of thing, I really encourage you to go to this Escarpment Labs, ESCARPMENTLABS.com, and there's an article on there called The Impact of Pitch Rate on Kvike Ferments. Go in and read it. It's got a lot of good information, and it's not real often that we get empirical laboratory information like this from a real yeast lab.
So what I took from this, and if you've been into the store and I've recommended Kvike to you, it's simply because I've considered it to be a viable yeast for what you're going to be brewing. With that being said, I've said to you pretty much, you don't need a starter based on the Omega yeast theory of, and it's I think it's been pretty much proven. If the beer is 1060 or below and the yeast is 3 months or less, you don't need to make a starter. Also, knowing that the biomass that they put into a packet with
this is Macy Moore from Hop Fusion Ale Works. Come and brew it.
Well,
Cheers.
hey, Macy. How
God
you doing?
damn it, Macy.
God, I thought we got rid of him after the last episode.
He popped up.
Pops in.
You go starting talking about starters and the ghost of Macy.
Yeah, that's right. Knowing and also knowing about the Kvike underpitch theory, thinking, hey, you could cut the top off this packet and throw it in and not need a starter. And, that is actually pretty accurate. What isn't accurate is that I haven't sold you, and it's not a case of upselling or anything like that. What I should be doing is selling you a packet of yeast and a packet of yeast nutrient too.
No, you should be selling them a package of yeast and a proper starter.
Yeah, but if we're saying that we don't need a starter, then that wouldn't be accurate either.
True. That's a good point, and I fail to talk about that with people because it's for me that's like Whirlflock.
Yeah,
I just have it there and I put it in every brew. I just think of it as I
yeast nutrient.
Put yeast nutrient in. Yeah,
I do too, except for last weekend's brew when I realised I didn't have any. So I got a hot head fermentation going on with no yeast nutrient.
Mm-hmm.
I could pay the penalty for that.
I'm the same way. I say yeast nutrient and Warflock every beer, every time.
Yeah.
Now the Warflock has an exception or two when I do my hef, when I do my wet. But in general, every beer, every time. You add those at 15. You add the nutrient at 10, and boom.
So because of that, I don't talk about it a lot because it's just an automatic.
Every beer, every time.
That's a really good point, Nigel. Yeah. You should be adding the nutrient no matter what you're doing. Yeah. So, okay. So go read that article. It's good stuff. Hopefully, we'll have some more of that, and we are going to have some more episodes on Kvike stuff coming up as I get a chance to get more into it with the Kvike registry group. So.
I think it's definitely like the hot brewing thing right now.
It really is.
Is you're using Kvike yeast.
Well, it helped. My firm chamber broke recently, and I went a couple of months without a firm chamber. And you know what? Hothead allowed me to keep brewing. Because I did a couple of English beers with Liberty Bell yeast and did them at room temperature, and I was disappointed. They were estery, and you've got to English yeast. You have to control your temperature. You just have to.
Yeah, you do.
And it's what so just today I had a buddy come in the shop, and he's doing this big ass imperial stout that's 12.5%, and I was like, hey, let's look at just for one alcohol tolerance. I was like, let's look at some of these Kvike strains, and he had a way to ferment a little warmer. So I was like, dude, ferment at 82.
See, I'm still waiting for you guys to brew that big barley wine.
I still want to do that.
Yeah, hey, we brought in that Munich 30 just for
It's
that. Nobody's done it yet.
It's a 4-hour boil.
Uh-huh.
It is and that would require me to double mash.
Uh-huh.
So we're looking at about a 9-hour brew.
And bring in 3 extra tanks of propane.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, a good point too with the high ABV stuff is the inability of these strains to create fusel alcohols is huge with a beer that big.
Yeah.
You know, even in temperature control, you can end up with your yeast just going absolutely ape shit in a 12% beer. The non-production of fusels is a huge thing with a beer like that.
So that's why I kind of suggested, I was like, you know, let's build a 1 liter starter or 1.5 liter starter, because ever since we talked about the proper starter and the dilution, I'm recommending people dilute it down a little bit more, like we talked about. You know, build a 1.5 liter starter, pitch that into that big ass beer, ferment it at 82, and that beer's going to rip through it, and you know that 13% beer is going to be done here in a week, and you know, crazy stuff like that.
It sounds crazy, but I want to see it done.
So let's go to break here. When we come back, we're going to have some sort of a promotion for our Patreon listeners and maybe for some others as well. We've been instructed to give away some stuff here by Stubby. He left a big mess on the table and said, give this away to everybody. So we've got some things to give away, and then we're going to get into our pale ale results and talk about stouts. So hang around for 10 minutes and come on back.
Yeah, come on.